Hello, Mikey Rupert here. Welcome to the Cooper and Rupert podcast. Subscribe to the podcast for free on iTunes or listen online at our website at cooperandrupert.com. On today's program, we talk everything NCAA Tournament, the Philadelphia 76ers losing streak and the worst losing streaks of all time, baseball's opening weekend down under and Yasiel Puig's injuries, and why Doug and I are having NFL fatigue.
You got a favorite Laker?
I love Kobe Bryant because they want him to have sex with me. Woo!
It's gone! Oh my God!
Well, you always give me a hard time. You don't never give me the credit I really deserve.
You good at commentating, so stick to commentate. Let me do the fight.
We go!
Welcome to the Cooper and Rupert podcast. This is your host, Mikey Rupert, alongside my main man, Doug Cooper.
I am also here,
It's good to see you,
as
man.
usual.
It was a good weekend. A lot of basketball going on today.
Yeah.
I wanted to make a few announcements before we get started today. I know that
Okay.
a lot of people, I just kind of showed everybody for the first time this week, a lot of my friends and family back home about us and doing this podcast.
Yeah, you've been going radio silent up until now.
Yeah, it was. We were in stealth mode.
There was about a week where you had not yet liked our own Facebook page.
Well, I know. I was trying to keep it on the down low because there were some things that wasn't quite ready. And of course, I'm so meticulous that I had to make sure every little detail was what I thought was right before I let everybody know. So now it appears to be good enough. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that we're available. We've got our website, cooperandrupert.com. That's where you can listen to it for free. Also, we are on iTunes, so you can subscribe to our podcast there if you'd like for free as well. All the episodes will be loaded instantly or simultaneously when we load it to the website, so they'll always be there. Also, an app is getting built. There'll be a Cooper and Rupert app that is going to be on the iPhone. I believe for iPhone and Android, I believe it's going to be $2, but that's not my decision. I purchased this.
You're going through a company that is
service,
making
yes, and so when I ordered my app, they require it to be the minimum of $2. One goes to them, one goes to us. So it's kind of a bummer. I might skip around it even if I was if I was a fan of the show. But there are ways to skip around it for free. But I know it will be super convenient. It's not ready yet, but I will let everyone know when the app is ready.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to let everybody know that just in case you've been having a difficulty listening to the podcast or wasn't exactly sure, cooperandrupert.com, iTunes, we're all over the place.
Yeah, it's getting official.
Yeah, for sure. Also, this is one segment, kind of a call out, not a call out, I'm calling out to the listeners. If you guys have any questions, emails, anything that you want to ask me and Doug, if we have good questions or something that's funny, we may put it on the show. So don't hesitate to email us. You can contact us. There's a Contact Us tab at the top of the website. That email goes right to me, and I look through them all. So if you have any comments, bring it on. I'd love to see what you guys got, and maybe we'll get a couple of the good ones on the show.
I'm also still available via my cell phone that I've had since 1997. So same number.
Oh, they can just call you?
Yeah, they could just call me, and I could write it down.
Yeah.
If we're going to go old school.
That'll be good. Stay to the end of the podcast, and we'll give you that number.
Yeah, so, either way, Facebook, regular email, Gmail. I'm around. That's
You're
what I'm
hip,
saying.
man.
I'm available.
Yeah, we haven't had a post to the Facebook page yet either, I don't think. A lot of likes.
Yeah.
Or maybe we've had a couple. I need to recheck it again. Nonetheless, NCAA Tournament. I have been doing nothing but watching college basketball since 9 o'clock in the morning on Thursday.
It's so great.
I've been waking up, watching hoops, going to sleep, getting up, watching hoops. I know I've watched at least over half the games.
I've done very little work. Very little.
I think that's the point, though.
Yeah. That's kind of 50% of why it's so fun.
I've been keeping up on our brackets pretty much the whole week. We had that big spiel last week about you and Karen and I and our boy Walter in that bracket challenge. And and after seeing how some of the games developed, I've ended up being on top, and I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, it's pretty convenient considering you're the one doing all the checking of the brackets. It's interesting how that worked out. I'm just saying, I'm not accusing you of anything, but I am saying you are keeping score and somehow you're winning.
I'm pretty excited about it. There was no brackets are left on the the bracket challenge. There's none left, as you would predict. No one would have saw what we've got coming.
I wrote down some stats.
You did.
Can I read some stats?
Do they have to do with the bracket?
Yeah.
Yeah. Read your stats, man.
81% of the brackets were out after the first game.
81%.
Yeah.
Dayton over Ohio State was 81% picked Ohio State.
Yeah.
That seems a little high, I suppose.
It does, but I mean they're a favorite. I think most people probably pick favorites.
So 81%.
I had them. I mean it was pretty horrible watching $1 billion slip through my hands that quickly.
Yeah.
Because I was pretty confident at that point that I was going to get it.
Yeah.
But just like that, 40 minutes into the whole thing, done.
Gone. Later. 81%. What's your next stat?
After the third game, 88% out. And after the first round, 100% out.
Wait a minute. No one got through the first round?
No.
Yeah, that's right. Because
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I was thinking, Thursday. Yes, I think it was the Duke Mercer game was the first one. Was it after that game? Was anybody perfect after that Mercer Duke game?
I don't know exactly when it happened, but nobody made it through the first round. Kind of driving home why this is freaking impossible. It's just not going to ever happen.
I would say it would be extremely tough if you knew everybody in the Sweet 16 and had to get to the Final Four. That would be tough.
Yeah.
But the first two rounds are almost impossible. You just can't get through that.
Yeah, I guess in some ways this is the hardest hurdle, and maybe.
Well, yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, who would have had Dayton or Stanford in your Elite Eight?
Yeah.
What bracket would have had that?
Yeah, that's true. It's pretty tough.
So
I mean, it's impossible. If I could time travel, I think one of the things I would use it for, probably the number one thing, is just so I could have a perfect bracket.
Well, yeah, you would do. Yeah, the $1 billion. Yeah, if you would have went back 3 days, if you could go back 1 day in time, you could just be loaded with cash.
Yeah,
just go back, take a sports book, and just go and bet on everything.
I wouldn't use it for anything positive. I would just use it for a tournament bracket. I wouldn't kill Hitler.
That's $1 billion. That's a piece of cake.
Yeah. No humanitarian efforts on my part. I just want to do a tournament bracket. That's perfect.
Well, then you could be a
because I would be that guy.
All that money, though.
I think people would talk about that for a long time. That would be my legacy, and I would be okay with that.
It'd be pretty good. I think Dave Ramsey says something about if you want to help people get rich. So there you go.
It's easy. That's the easiest way. Build a time machine. Do a perfect bracket.
A lot of crazy games this weekend. One in particular that I wanted to talk about was Wichita State. Right off the bat. I guess a question. I saw a lot of people talking about Wichita State. How their 35-0 season came to an end today against Kentucky, and a lot of people were quick to say that Wichita State wasn't for real because they couldn't get out of the round of 32. Mm-hmm. But I would want to say this about that I will not listen. I refuse to listen to anyone who would say that Wichita State is not one of the best 4 teams in this tournament. Kentucky, the preseason number 1 team, has figured it out. They're playing better than they've played all year. And that game was by far the best tournament game so far.
That was a great game.
Those 2 teams were good, and unfortunately, one of them had to go down. And it happened to be Wichita State today. That team is deserving of their 1 seed. They deserve their record, and it's so unfortunate that we don't get to watch them play more.
Yeah, it was a bummer. It was hard to watch them. That was the hardest loss, just as an arbitrary observer of the tournament or whatever. That was the hardest loss to take because they had something so special on the line. And Kentucky, I've already, as I said last week, I have my feelings about Kentucky. They're not my favorite team. But, I think just the idea that they had worked so hard and they got that close to doing something that's never been done before, that loss has got to be just like a gut punch that I can't even imagine.
It was such an unfortunate draw. We knew that going in that it was an unfortunate draw. But Kentucky is very much, they are an 8, and they deserve to be an 8 because of the way they've done. But their potential is not an 8.
Obviously, yeah.
That is not an 8. That is not a typical 8 seed team.
They have a lot of really good players.
Yeah, they're preseason number 1, best recruiting class of all time,
according to JC.
Yeah, so it's not a normal situation more than an 8. But they got sloppy. They played poorly before the tournament had started. They made a lot of mistakes late, and they got to an 8 because of it. And unfortunately, Wichita State took they took that unfortune in the round of 32.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Wichita State is legit. They are a good basketball team. That Early is like a legit badass player.
Yeah,
that dude
good.
can play.
Oh man,
that dude can ball.
Dunk. Yeah, no.
I mean, so I think it's not like there's some scrubby like team that just like out executes everybody. Like they have like real deal basketball players, dudes who will take it to you. And I think they are legit. I just think like they ended up in the region of doom, this like horrific bracket that is like basically the worst possible thing you could ever hope for. Like we said last week, 3 of the final 4 teams from last year, them being one of them, true, but like plus Duke were in this bracket, and and then you have to go against in the second round game a team like Kentucky, a team who, if they put it together, can beat anybody, anytime, anywhere, on any floor. So like, yeah, that sucks. That's a sucky draw.
It was a drag, and we are all losers because we didn't get to see them go any farther. They did get the biggest. They were the first school to ever be 35-0. So at least they got something for that huge body of work that they put together.
Sadly, though, there will be people who always dismiss it because...
Well, you're right, and I don't think those people matter. When you're listening to somebody talk about Wichita State and they say something negative, those people know nothing about sports. So just try to keep that in mind when you're listening to this podcast and you're going around today on this Monday and you hear somebody say, "Oh, Wichita State couldn't get to the Sweet 16." Like, that person is an idiot. Walk away from them because they know nothing.
Yeah. If you watch the game, if you just read the headlines or you just followed some narrative that's already been constructed by like ESPN or somebody or whatever, you could easily say like, "Oh, Wichita State, as soon as they played somebody, they lost." But if you actually watch the games, like you watch that team, they're really good at basketball. I mean, it's just like the way it is. It's not like, it's not like they played out of their minds and still got beat by Kentucky, who was like had a bad game, and it was like there was obvious levels of discrepancy levels in their skill and talent and execution, all that. It's just they got beat by a good team who was playing really well.
If Kentucky continues to play like they did today, I don't know how someone's going to beat them. I say that, you can get down to Arizona looked good today. They steamrolled Gonzaga. And
Florida looked good.
And Florida looked good as well. But if Kentucky continues what they're doing, I will not be surprised if I see them in the Final Four. That they played well. That game was so exciting to watch.
And they have a little bit of like a chip on their shoulder, I'm sure, at this point, because everybody's discounted them. I mean, they've kind of written them off. And those guys, you come into the college basketball as one of those prospects who thinks, that they're hot shit. And like, you're not going to take kindly to people just writing you off and saying you're sorry, Like, you're going to be like, well, we'll prove you wrong.
Ignore the 8 seed by their name from now on.
Yeah.
That team is not an 8.
Look at the name on their jersey.
They might as well be a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
They're playing... That elite recruiting class is now playing elite.
Yeah. And they gave Florida a hell of a game in the SEC championship game. Not many people, I think, remember that. I mean, they played those guys really well, too, and that was the consensus number 1 overall. So... And the good thing about Kentucky winning is that we get the Kentucky Louisville game, which is always exciting. And at this point, it's like the stakes are a little bit higher.
It'll be something to watch, and I'll be looking forward to that next
week. Although no one really to root for in that situation.
Yeah, but we just get to be bystanders, and that's okay.
Yeah, we get to see those two teams destroy each other, which is nice, I guess.
Now there was several upsets that happened over the week, which was of course is always fun. And I got thinking, I've done a little bit of did some work. I was looking for a story earlier in the week when I saw that after I watched Mercer beat Duke, and Mercer looked great. Now they got beat by Tennessee. I didn't watch that game, but Tennessee must be doing something because Mercer looked to be a real deal team. Now maybe it was too emotional for them and they couldn't rebound from that huge win, but Mercer looked sound. And I was really impressed, and I was actually stunned that they didn't get beat, which makes me think that Tennessee's doing something. But nonetheless, looking around, seeing all these upsets that have happened, and I was looking for a bigger story for the podcast. I was thinking, is there something here with these upsets? Has the talent pool become more even throughout college basketball? Is there something here to this that we're seeing more upsets? The past couple years when we saw Florida Gulf Coast do their thing and Lehigh and Norfolk State a couple of years ago as 2s. And I was just thinking about this. So I looked some things up, and my conclusion after doing this, I've got some statistics here. Well, my conclusion is that this is actually extremely on pace. That these upsets are normal, and what appears to be these influx is actually not the case.
Yeah.
These have been happening this whole time. The system changed in 1985 to take the teams to 64, which went from 53 to 64 teams in a bracket, which is what we know now. That's all those stats come from 1985 on. There have been, of the 215s, there's been 7 total of those happen. 3 of them have happened in the last 5 seasons. Now, and so that's the biggest ratio. But when you look at the 314s, 413s, 512s, 611s, those matchups, they've been proportionate to the amount of that have happened throughout the years.
So they've been steady.
For example, like the last 5 seasons of the 314 matchups, those upsets, there's only been 3 in the last 5 years. There's been 18 total. So you can go on down the line. And since this started in 1985, of the 512 games, there's been 44 512 upsets.
Uh-huh.
Only 3 years have only 3 years have there been a tournament without a 512 upset.
Oh, I thought that had never happened.
There's only been 3: 1988, 2000, and 2007.
Oh, okay.
A 5 where all the 5s advanced.
Okay.
But the past couple years, 3 of the 4 12s have advanced. So I guess the point is, when I was crunching all these numbers, I was stunned to see that it's always been this way, and there is no story here. Yeah,
I mean, I think anything that's set up like by a committee, where the matchups are pretty much totally arbitrary. Like, I mean, they're not arbitrary, but they're like they're somewhat random, and they're done. There's a level of human error. I think, there's no way that you would get a across the board standard ratio all the time of those happening. It's just not possible. I mean, there's just too much human element, and there's too many variables. But yeah, it's random. Anything can happen. That's why it's great in the first place. And so it doesn't surprise me that it's pretty much different all the time.
Well, it's random and it's not random. We usually find high seeds in the Final Four, with the occasion of, Wichita State, they were a 9 last year. With the occasion of, George Mason or VCU, who was an 11. Every once in a while something funky goes in there, but for the most part, the best teams kind of surface at the end. Generally.
Yeah.
There are good teams that go down along the way, but you usually get high quality 1 through 4s are usually in the tournament every time, or in the Final Four every time.
Yeah.
I guess I thought, and I still kind of think this. I still don't feel like these stats have turned me away, thinking that the talent pool is more evenly distributed now than it has been.
Well,
I think incorrect.
Well, okay, so I think CBS is like, the guys on CBS have been maligning like all the one and done players, and how bad that is for college basketball, blah, blah, blah. I kind of like it because I think it kind of speaks to what you're talking about. I think it creates this cool dichotomy where you have like the really, hot shot, high level, highly touted prospect teams like your Kentuckys going against these teams that are more built around like senior players, guys who are never going to be great NBA players, but have been in college for 4 years. They've been playing together. They maybe have a little bit better chemistry. So you have this kind of like, almost like, I would compare it to like the Miami Heat Dallas Mavericks final, where you have maybe disproportionate talent levels, but one team's playing a little bit better. And so I think it creates this cool like dichotomy of styles, which I really like. And I think maybe that's what you're talking about. So like a team like Mercer, yeah, they don't have as good of players as Duke, but those guys have been playing together for 4 years now. And they really know what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, and they know the system that they're running really well, and they've been coached, one way for a long time, and that matters in basketball. It just does.
You'd like to think that that's the way, that you like the older guys. A lot of people love that. You never hear somebody saying, "I just love the talent, don't care about the experience." No one says that. No one's ever said that in the history of the world.
Yeah, that's true.
But the thing is, the teams with the talent, like the Kansases or the Kentuckys or Dukes, whoever, name a program that's getting, or the teams that we see all the time.
Yeah.
It takes, 4 years to develop what Mercer had to not get out of the round of 32. So Not obviously Kentucky's still playing, but Kansas got beat today, and they've got all kinds of talent. My point is you'd rather have the talent. Than, I think that's the easier way to be good is just getting all the talent. There are ways around it, but you'd rather have all the talent.
Totally, but I think the thing that's cool here is that a team that doesn't have the talent, because there's an advantage in chemistry that you can get through having seniors. Like, it's good that if Kansas had 4-year players, like if Andrew Wiggins was there for 4 years and they had all these guys for 4 years and they had a senior team, nobody would beat them. And then that wouldn't be fun at all. There'd be no chance for the little guys, So I think the fact that they have a disadvantage by having a bunch of freshman players, a bunch of young guys, makes it cool because it makes it more likely that they're going to lose to a team that's really well coached and really well disciplined and have been playing together for a long time.
Well, the good news is those teams aren't going to go away because there's not enough talent to go around.
Yeah,
of the high talent. So you're going to have teams that are going to have to come together and be like that.
So I kind of like it. I mean, I prefer this system to a system where players were staying in for 4 years, because then you see all the big schools and they're the Elite Eight every time, basically.
That was one of the themes that seemed to be coming up all the time when they were going back to the CBS crew with Charles Barkley and that whole gang. And I just kind of saw it. It just is coming up more and more as we watch these games when they were, the announcers are talking about it during the Mercer-Duke game. There's a lot of people talking about one-and-dones in college basketball. We've talked about this off-air as well as on-air about one-and-done players and what system needs to be in place. And I still haven't got the answer. I think I know that straight to the NBA is just fine with me, but I would say 0 is better than 1, and 2 would be better than 1.
I don't know. I mean, I like 1. If 1's fine with me, like I said, I kind of enjoy it because it gives, like I said, for all the reasons I just said. But I think having these guys in college for a little bit is better than having them come out of high school, because if they come out of high school, you have no idea who they are. You just don't, and at least this way, you get some exposure to these guys. And I think, they get, you didn't know who Jabari Parker was a year ago. Now you do. You didn't know who Andrew Wiggins was a year ago, unless you're really got your ear to the ground following that stuff really closely. I don't know. I like it. I mean, to me, it's exciting. It adds another level of hype to them and builds gives them a chance to build, a kind of that star aura before they hit the league.
Today, Charles Barkley had said that the NBA is the worst that it's ever been. He said that today on CBS. He wasn't attributing it to the college game, I don't think specifically, but I think in a roundabout way was saying that the fact that players cannot that they are forced the fact that players are going so early to the NBA is becoming detrimental to the NBA and their start of their career.
I don't know. I think that's kind of grumpy old man talk. I mean, Charles Barkley also said one time, computers are stupid. So I don't really know. I don't always take his grain of salt, on forward-thinking things. Things change. I mean, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, these guys came out after 1 year. I mean, how bad was it? Or I guess Russell Westbrook was a sophomore, but Kevin Durant came out after 1 year. Derrick Rose came out after 1 year. I mean, those guys are fine. LeBron James came out of high school. He's doing okay.
You're right.
Kobe's all right.
Those are exceptional talents.
Kevin Garnett has been playing pretty well for a while.
And I see where he's coming from because these are exceptional. But, I don't want to hear any arguments about with LeBron involved when it comes from the straight out of high school, because those guys come around once every 10 years, and these rules don't need to be based around that one guy.
Yeah, I know.
So
I'm just saying there's lots of examples of guys who go one and done and who are fine. And I bet there's going to be guys in this class too. And for every one and done guy that didn't pan out in the NBA, I could point to somebody like Marcus Smart who stayed another year and just destroyed his draft stock. He should have come out last year. He would have been better off. I mean, now, I don't know. Is he even going to go in the top 10? Last year, he could have been the number 1 pick, maybe. So
we definitely argue for the actual players, for the individuals and their money making, that going straight out of high school is by far the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best option for those players. So, without the risk of injury and, just getting their paper, that's what it's best for. But is it best for their career in the long run? Not that we need to be making those decisions for them, but we enjoy the NBA and we want to see the best product on the field or on the court all the time.
It's ironic that Charles Barkley would say that because he played in the worst era of NBA basketball. So I mean, I think like in the late '80s and the early '90s, when you had dudes coming out of college and they were getting $70 million contracts, $90 million contracts, like their first contract at a high school, that's what destroyed a lot of players. I mean, I think that was way more detrimental to a lot of these guys than the way it is now. I think another year in college, it's relative. Everybody's different. I mean, I don't know. I think that some guys would benefit from it probably. Andrew Wiggins is a guy who I think would benefit from staying a little bit longer. He's not ready. He's not polished. He's not that, like, he's got all the physical tools, but you watch him play basketball and you're like, this guy leaves a lot to be desired. But somebody like Jabari Parker, I mean, like, that guy's ready to play in the NBA. Like, he has a skill set already that he's ready to go. So
I've got a feeling that because this is so talked about all the time, these execs are not going to have a chance. They're not going to be able to ignore this. The fact that this is talked about and this is always a topic, I've got a feeling it will be addressed for the better or for the worse. Something is going to change. I could see that happening within the next 3 or 4 years. That's based on no research. Just got a feeling, just got a hunch that they're going to do. They're going to change something just to change it, and I hope it works. Whatever they decide,
they're going to change it. I mean, but I don't know if that's necessarily for the betterment of the game and all. And I mean, I don't know how much of an effect it'll have. I don't know if you raise the age by 1 year and suddenly like every draft class has 10 All-Stars. I mean, it just seems stupid to me.
Yeah,
like I don't know.
No, you're right. It's not going to just change everything. But yeah.
Well, so what were your favorite games?
No. Well, I know. I wanted to pause a minute, and okay. I wanted to ask you. Here's a question that's also been kind of running around in my mind. Is there anything that we can conclude from a conference or a particular team from watching them play in the NCAA tournament? What I mean by that, a lot of our listeners would be Big 12 fans.
Yeah.
So and the fact that was kind of the unanimous
best conference,
quote, best conference in the country. A lot of people, with all the exits that we've had, with the exception of Baylor, who looked great today, and Iowa State, who played that awesome game against UNC, everybody else is beaten out.
Yeah. 5
are gone in the first weekend.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we can conclude from the tournament, or is the tournament just the tournament?
I think it matters. I don't know. I mean, like, I think when a lot of a conference strengths are built around playing each other, and a lot of that is built based off of preseason rankings when you don't know anything. So I think sometimes these teams can get projected into a higher level, they're respected a little bit more than maybe they've necessarily earned, because all you're doing is playing each other. And if Kansas starts out ranked number 2, and then Texas beats them, it's like, oh, maybe Texas is better than we thought. And then Colorado beats Texas, and then I think it kind of has a snowball effect a little bit. The Big 12 obviously wasn't that good. I don't know.
I've been looking back. I looked at some of the some stats on the Big 12 in the tournament just to see where they're at. I'm excluding KU from the rest of these stats. KU has made it. They've won 3 national titles. They've been to the Final Four 13 times. With the exception of Kansas, the Big 12 in the NCAA tournament has underperformed.
Yeah.
Insanely amount.
Historically.
I'm going back to the Big 6, Big 7, Big 8, and Big 12 for all these stats. But they've had, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 total appearances by Big 12 teams in the Final Four. 0 national championships, with the exception of Oklahoma A&M, which eventually became Oklahoma State, but at the time was in the Missouri Valley.
Yeah, that doesn't count. Get that out of my face.
Okay, that was in 1946 and 47.
Yeah, that's when they were like, they didn't even use jump shots, right?
I don't even know.
And they would just dribble around with one hand and one.
I think the basketball still had laces on them.
Yeah,
I think
that wasn't a beacon of great basketball.
Yeah, it was definitely rough. But since then, OU's had 4 appearances: 02, 88, 47, and 39. Texas with 1. Oklahoma State with 2 in 04 and 95.
Okay,
Texas was in 03. Iowa State won in 1944. Kansas State's got 4, 48, 51, 58, 64, and Colorado with 1. So you're talking about in like the modern era of basketball, what, 3?
Final Fours?
Yeah, like 88 OU and 88, Texas, Oklahoma in 2000.
Yeah, it's not a very good.
And 94, and then Oklahoma State again in 95. So I mean, you're talking about just like a handful of appearances from a whole conference.
Yeah,
no national titles.
Yeah, Kansas, I think really okay. Like I said, I think Kansas really ups the level of respectability of the Big 12 by itself.
Yes, of course,
because anybody who beats Kansas automatically gets looked in a different light. And I think sometimes teams just lose games. I don't know how anybody could think like, I mean, like just watching, speaking from my alma mater, like watching Texas play basketball, you see Rick Barnes just on the sidelines staring vacantly into the 15th row while his assistant reminds him that he should probably call a timeout or maybe like draw a play or like the guy's just an idiot. Like he's a good recruiter, I guess, but or pretty good. I mean, but he's just like, that guy is never going to coach a team that makes it to the Final Four. And we were the one at fluke teams that made it. So if we're like the good part, if Rick Barnes is like one of the rare exceptions, if he's one of the gems of your conference, that's bad news.
It's tough, Kansas or Big 12. They had their top ranked in the RPI in the country this year.
Yeah,
they won a ton of games, and they looked great in the regular season for the most part. But they just routinely perform poorly in the in the NCAA tournament. And while I'm not the guy who's quick to judge people off the tournament, because you got all these games that are going on, single elimination, anything can happen. As we saw with Mercer and Duke or any of these teams, there's no rhyme or reason why some of these games end the way that they do.
True.
So you can't judge a full season off the tournament. But at the same time, I'm kind of sitting here going, what is going on with this conference? This particular, the Big 12 conference, or for the fact that they've just underproduced for all these years.
I think it's just coaches. I mean, how it's become like. Well, first of all, and I think this is another factor. The basketball programs in almost every place you named except Kansas are secondary programs. They're not the primo shit. Like Kentucky, basketball is everything. What is a football? I don't even know. What is a football game? Like we have a team. Like I don't even know who's our quarterback. But with the exception of Kansas, Texas football school, OSU football school, OU football school, Kansas State football school. I mean, they're all football schools, and so when your focus is on football, your basketball team's not going to be as good. You can have a guy like Rick Barnes just fucking doofusing it up for 10 years and nobody cares because nobody notices how terrible he is. I mean, I just don't think people know enough about basketball in those states to care enough or to get better people. Like if I were Texas, I would be calling Greg Marshall right now and being like, yo, do you want $3 million?
Well, But you can't. Are you saying that you can't be good at football and you can't have a good basketball program and a good football program?
No,
because a lot of these programs are pretty good. They just haven't done well in the tournament. I
just think that they, it's like they're not their primary objective, so the scrutiny isn't there. Like Rick Barnes, if he was the football coach, would never have been allowed to do what he's doing. Like it just wouldn't fly. He would have been fired like a long time ago. So I just think their focus isn't on the basketball programs, and so I think you end up with some coaches that are just not as good.
I don't know. It's possible.
Maybe. I don't know. That's just my theory.
Well, like I say, I don't know. It's ongoing. It's kind of almost a rhetorical question just to get it out here. I don't know how a program can look so good and play other conferences so well in the regular season and then just underperform over and over.
Well, and some of it's just
in this tournament, but for years and years and years.
Systemically, that's my best guess. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I mean, I think in terms of just this year, some of it could just be matchups too. I mean, it's just it's hard to say. It's so hard to judge it on that small of a sample size. And like you said, anything can happen in the tournament. So it just could be a fluke thing this year.
Well, maybe it's just maybe the conference is just doomed for the tournament. Who knows? I've got a couple of questions for you, Doug, that I had kind of thought about. We now know the field, going back to the tournament. We know the 16. Who is the biggest surprise on the board?
I don't know. I mean, I guess like any of these 10, 11 seeds, I mean, there are teams
Dayton and Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like Stanford didn't look very good in the regular season. They didn't seem to be anything to write home about. Dayton, I mean, I'm not sure where that is. Like, where's that school? I don't even know.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's not super exciting, but I mean, the thing about Dayton is they have a Miller brother as a coach, and those guys get it done. I'm a big fan of the Miller family. Like, those guys know what they're doing.
What's the worst loss of the tournament so far?
Duke, Mercer, from their standpoint. But the best from my standpoint, I mean, like, watching Duke lose is great.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm just saying.
But for them, that's got to be pretty horrible.
Who lost? Okay. So
they have their most notable star in, like, a long time, and they lose in the first round. That's not great. Like, I think they thought that this team was pretty legit. Although, I mean, this team wasn't like setting the world on fire in the regular season, so maybe they had tempered expectations. But like, to get a guy like Jabari Parker into a program like Duke, where you don't even necessarily need like a superstar, I mean, he's probably like their most like highly touted player since like Redick? I don't even know.
It's tough to argue that. I'm just really just looking through this and going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I think that probably is the worst.
Yeah, I mean there were other losses that were explainable. I mean, Colorado got beat by Pittsburgh by like the most ever by an 8-9 seed. I guess that's not great, but I mean that's an 8-9 game, so
yeah, not
the best for them. What can we talk about something real quick?
What do you want? Well, yeah, man. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Duke.
Okay. Now I've got that right here. You want to talk about Grant Hill?
I want to talk about that, and then I want in a broader spectrum. I want to talk about.
Okay. Well, we've got one of Doug's favorite segments here on the show. We need to have some catchy little riff for this too. Something about whenever race comes up.
But this one's...
I don't know. Do you have you go around the internet and just type in Google search race and just see what is going on?
I get
these stories from this guy every single week about someone in race. Everything's got to do with the color of everyone's skin. He loves these.
I Google race war every day on my computer. I have a Google alert for race war.
I know this
one doesn't really have to do with race. Grant Hill brought it up in a context of race, but that's not really why I want to talk about it.
Okay. Well, let me read the story and then we can dissect. Grant Hill, in an interview with the Bleacher Report on Thursday, was commenting on someone, I guess, the topic had brought up of why people hate Duke. And this is what Grant Hill said, quote, "We've had a lot of really good white players. I think that plays a role." He goes on to say, but the funny thing is, I played with Bobby Hurley and Christian Laettner, and they were despised when we went on the road. But you look into the crowd, and there was nothing but white students at the games, so it was white on white hate. It's sad. That was his quote. And then you were just, I just saw the joy in your eyes. Yay!
I just started high-fiving people. No, I mean, like, for the reason he just stated, I think that's why that's a dumb thing and it doesn't have anything to do with race. Or maybe it does in the sense that, like, we project a certain image of these guys onto them because they're white. But I think you were saying it, like, I think we hate Duke because they're elitists. Or we view them as elitists.
I think that's right.
Like you were saying the other day, like you said, like they just seem like the dudes who are like on a yacht in a sweater with a sweater tied around their neck, and then you're just like, I hate that guy. Screw that guy.
And we also know that they recruit in such a way that they exclude talent, or they handpick who they want. Well, I guess everyone does. That's what recruiting is.
Yeah.
But they are looking for a certain type, and that program is able to get away with it. They're able to maintain this kind of profile and stereotype while continuing to produce results on the court.
My best theory is, like, we don't want to see the people who have everything get more. And Duke's already a good school, and the kids are going there, already have these, like, really nice waspy lives that they're going to live and, like, go on to be, like, lawyers who, like, do, I don't know, they're going to make money, and they, like, and so you don't want to see the guys who are, like, the smart, like, guys who have everything get more with, like, the sports program.
I think
and I don't even know exactly what that means, but I just feel like you just look at them and you're like, that's the guy who used to, like, push me against lockers in school and call me a homo or like whatever. And so you're just like, I don't want that guy to win at basketball too. Like he doesn't deserve to win.
Well, you might be right.
He was like beating up nerds and stuff. And the weird part is, and I mentioned this too, like JJ Redick just looks like that guy. Like if you built the, stupid 80s high school bully and you built him in like a factory, it would come out and it would be JJ Redick. Like he would come out of the tube just like with smoke coming off of him. Like we just built this. This is the biggest prick that's ever lived. But like JJ Redick wasn't even like a rich kid. He was like poor. He was from Virginia. Like he came from it wasn't like he went to prep school. He wasn't on a yacht. But as soon as you put that Duke jersey on, you're like labeling yourself with everybody else who goes there, and people just assume that about you. And maybe that is because he's white. I don't know. But he was also just a prick.
White on white hate, is that even a thing?
I don't know.
White on white hate?
See, yeah, I don't.
Is that even a?
Yeah, to me it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I mean, maybe because we see them as those guys.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah, but JJ Redick was a dickhead.
Was he?
Yeah, he was kind of an arrogant, douchey guy, and so was Leitner. Like those guys weren't like cool.
Well, that's unfortunate for them then.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that's my theory. Is like you don't want to see the people who have everything get more.
No, that's right. That's why we hate Duke. I know that's the right answer, but Grant Hill had a different take on it, and I respect Grant Hill.
Love Grant Hill.
He's
my
great.
boy, but I think he's wrong on this one.
Let's transition.
You're talking about a guy who signed with Fila, so I don't. His opinion.
Well, that's hip, man.
His opinion comes into
I had
question.
some Fila shoes when I was in junior high.
Yeah,
I think they're still in the school.
I think that's what destroyed his ankles.
I probably
His
did.
Filas, his whack ass Filas.
Yeah. Let's transition, Doug, into some NBA.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and this 24-game losing streak. We're on the verge of history.
Amazing history.
They have lost 24 in a row, and only the Cavaliers of 2010 and 11 have had more with 26. Now, this is interesting. The Cleveland Cavaliers are tied for second with the 76ers right now. For 2 years in a row, they had a 24-game losing streak in 1981 and 82 through the 82 and 83 season. Cavaliers had 24, and then they also have the top seed. So
the NBA.
3 seasons, the Cavaliers have had really long losing streaks. That's a really bad franchise. But the 76ers have yet to play San Antonio tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Then they play at Houston.
Loss.
And then next Saturday, you can tune in for history when they go for the 27th in a row against the Detroit Pistons.
They might get that one. The NBA, where amazing happens.
It's really interesting also to note that they are still 2 full games up on Milwaukee for the worst record in the NBA. Milwaukee is the worst, despite Philadelphia losing 24 in a row.
Well, Milwaukee's just been consistently horrific.
They're 13 and 57.
You know what's funny is Milwaukee actually tried to be good. That's the saddest part. Like they were trying to build a team that they thought was going to make the playoffs, and that's what happened. That's the turd that came out.
Rough.
But if if you're going to make a horrific mistake, I guess this year is a better one than others. But yeah,
I guess they're tanking and they're tanking hard, man.
How far would the 76ers go in this tournament? How far do you think they would get?
Oh, God.
Mercer would beat the Philadelphia 76ers by 37 points.
We're not going to have this conversation. There's one thing in sports that gets me upset, which I know you're joking, but now as I'm thinking about it. If you want to get me really mad, start talking about college teams who can beat the pros. Oh, I bet Alabama could take Jacksonville. I want to fight you immediately if you're serious about that.
It's so
comment.
dumb. Yeah.
So there you go. Now I know you know how to get under my skin.
I'll remember that. I'll write that down.
Keep it in mind because there's nothing that I hate more than that silly conversation.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, like they have like a D-League team and Michael Carter-Williams. Like that's what they're rolling out there with. They're getting beat by like 25 points like every night. I mean, it's like it's gross.
Well, if you're gonna be bad and not make the playoffs, might as well be terrible.
Yeah,
there's been all kinds of tank talk. There's not much we can shed on the situation that is any different than what anybody else has said. But
well, let me ask you this: do you think these players, after watching the tournament and watching these guys a little bit more in a high pressure situation, do you think these guys are worth being historically bad and losing 27 games straight and just embarrassing your franchise for a whole year? Do you think Andrew Wiggins is worth that? He's not LeBron James. He's not Tim Duncan.
Well, yeah, but you got to take him.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, this is like, for all the tanking that's going on this year, I don't know how many really good players are in this draft class.
Well, you're going to take the best player that's in the draft, though.
I know. My point is, though, you would think that this would be happening, a year like this with all this tanking would be happening in a year where there was like LeBron.
Well, why
clearly the best, greatest, like.
But it's your best opportunity to get better, so why not do it all the time? If you had terrible players, you'd still tank just to get the least terrible guy that you can get.
I guess, but this year we have teams that are literally going to break historic records.
They could theoretically tank again. They could go 2 back-to-back picks.
Yeah. I don't know.
That makes total sense to me. I totally get that. Andrew Wiggins is going to help. The guy is nuts. He's an athletic specimen.
Yeah, I just like so much was built up this year about how everyone was going to be hoarding draft picks and how everybody wanted to get in on this draft class, and this was the best draft class since like 06. And it's just like, or 03, sorry, whenever LeBron came out, I don't know, that whole draft class.
Darko Milicic.
Yeah, well, the gym.
Was that in the same draft class?
Yeah. That's Joe Dumars gold right there.
LeBron went 1, and then the Pistons took Darko Milicic.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think Carmelo went 3rd.
That's logical.
Yeah. So basically, I don't know. I find it interesting that so much has been hyped up about this class, and then I've watched these guys. I finally watched these guys the most I have. I mean, I've watched some of their games before, but like watch these guys in a high pressure situation, and like I watch Andrew Wiggins, and I'm so like lukewarm about him.
Well, he's still like 19 years old. I think that's the thing is there's still room for growth on these guys. I wouldn't be down on these guys after one game. You know, having one bad game in the tournament doesn't.
No, I'm not saying like that. I'm just saying like these guys, like Andrew Wiggins has been up and down all season, and he looks really raw. Like he doesn't look like this otherworldly prospect that everyone was making him out to be. Same with Jabari Parker.
Well, when you put your name besides LeBron James, everyone just folds their arms and goes, "Oh, really?" So I think he came into a bad situation. It's just a curse when you come out of high school or when no one's seen you and they say, "Oh yeah, dude, next MJ right here." Yeah, it's like it's so unfair to that person, and it's like,
no, that's true.
You know, even though KU is a school that I don't root for, it's almost like I feel bad for that guy. He just having to live up to LeBron freaking James every day of your life. It's just like, you know, we still haven't got that out of our head. That's still resonating. And I think one game in a tournament in a college format, I would say would not change my pick of taking him first.
Well, yeah, and but I'm also just saying like the people that are hyping him up like that are these NBA organizations who are paid to evaluate talent, and they're the ones who have made all this like noise about this draft class. And then you watch it, and it's just like there's a lot of guys who are going to be really good or good at least, but there's nobody like on that like superstar level. Andrew Wiggins might be able to turn into a superstar, but like I see a bunch of guys who might make like 2 or 3 All-Star games.
I was looking here at other really bad losing streaks that have happened in the world of sports. And I came across a few that I thought were kind of interesting and noteworthy alongside we're talking the Philadelphia 24-game losing streak. Mm-hmm. The worst losing streak in college football, Prairie View A&M from 1989 to 1998 did not win a game. They lost 80 in a row for about 9 years.
That's really depressing.
80 games. In the NFL, this one is pretty bad as well. Tampa Bay lost 26 games in a row. Mm-hmm. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's awful.
Baseball, there were some old teams, like super old team, like the Clowns or something. You know, they're not even close. But this one is like kind of less. 21 games in a row is really bad, but that for some reason doesn't seem like shockingly bad.
No.
In Division I basketball, the Townsend Tigers lost 41 games in a row from 2011 to 2012. And this is Division III basketball, but this was ridiculous. Division III men's basketball was the Caltech Beavers. They lost 207 games in a row. That is from 96 to 2007. That is a record for all divisions of men's and women's losing streaks.
That's insane. I have to say, though, I'm shocked that Caltech does not have a good basketball team.
Caltech Beavers, man. That's the Caltech Beaver Hoops.
Yeah.
From 96 to 2007.
That's literally
I wonder how many people were in the gym.
Well, that's literally like they must be playing with guys that literally just go to the school and they're like, hey, you want to play basketball? Like pulling guys in off that like out of the cafeteria, like, we need a sitter. Just like, who's the tallest guy here? Like, how can you be that bad?
I just want to know what the atmosphere is like in those home gyms.
The atmosphere is silent.
You think there are more players and coaches than there are fans? It's got to be close. It's Division III basketball to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think it's just like a practice in there.
You know how like if a bomb goes off in a war movie and there's like that ringing in their ears and everyone's just staggering around?
Yeah.
Like that's the atmosphere of a Caltech game. I don't know. Like it's probably no one goes. I don't know. Why would you even go? Unless your like boyfriend's on the team.
I should have done some research as to where these people are at. They got some like photos of the gym or something like when I was.
Yeah, I mean, these dudes are probably like
games.
Dudes are probably like astrophysicists now, which is why they're not like just dunking on fools.
I know, but you got to think 9 years didn't win one game.
Yeah, that's a long time.
They got to be worse than like regular high schools. How do you not get hot from behind the three like once? Like one night you just went off and just made a bunch of threes and you won a game.
Yeah. You think I don't know.
Terrible.
They probably just don't have guys who can get hot from three.
Yeah, well,
like it's not possible.
That's the Caltech Beaver motto.
Yeah,
no one gets hot from three. Baseball happened over the weekend, Doug.
Did it?
Yeah, it actually started regular season.
Good job by baseball to start your regular season during the tournament. Good call.
It was also really weird to just start it in the middle of nowhere in Australia. That's kind of another.
What are they doing?
I don't know.
Did Bud Selig just want to take a vacation?
They're probably trying to expand, and be hip. And try to do what everyone else is doing and get global. But it happened. The Los Angeles Dodgers won against the Arizona Diamondbacks twice, 3-1. And then
when is the actual season starting in America?
A week from tomorrow. Well, a week from tonight.
Why are they doing this? That's so dumb.
What do you mean? Why are they doing it?
To have a game a week before the actual season starts in Australia?
Well, yeah, but this isn't the one with the fanfare. This is just, I don't know. They probably wanted to give Australia a couple of real games. And the baseball schedule is so tight, they don't have time to send the Los Angeles Dodgers to Australia.
They got to give them time to get back and like.
So they did it. It was very quiet. Nothing. There was no fanfare to it. I hardly think anybody even knew that it happened, but they did.
If a baseball game is played in Australia,
yeah,
and
then there's
as the old riddle goes,
yeah. Did it actually happen?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it did.
Now, being in Los Angeles as we are. The Los Angeles Dodgers come up a lot. So a lot of the topics, it's very difficult to not make the topics kind of based around what we're experiencing all the time. So I guess this is kind of it's not a homer topic, but nonetheless, I really thought it was interesting. Yasiel Puig has almost got this Fernando Valenzuela type impact on Los Angeles right now. This guy is everything. Last year, he was obviously so good. He's a loose cannon out there, and he's been the talk of almost everything when it comes to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Mm-hmm. But I thought that this story was very interesting during this weekend that they played in Australia. I think he went 3 for 5 in one of the games, but apparently Yasiel Puig is having some issues. He made several base running blunders, like terrible, unprofessional, like base running mistakes over the weekend, which is kind of in his knock this whole time. And
like he was like playing with grass.
And I guess apparently every time he strikes out, he like grabs something. He's kind of, he fakes an injury or something. You know those guys, Doug, that like they get schooled and it's like, like my knee, or something.
I hate those guys.
Yeah, you hate those guys. They're always at the wreck. Those guys are at the wreck. They got their elbow bothering them when they brick that 3-pointer.
Yeah, they do one of these like with the shoulder, like stretching it out.
Something, is out this week.
So it's tight.
I was throwing the ball, Yeah, that's guy. Apparently, Yasiel Puig is pulling one of these. Okay. Don Mattingly had said sarcastically in an interview after the game. I thought this was interesting on Yasiel Puig and his quote injuries. Mm-hmm. Someone must have asked him what it was. He said it was the shoulder yesterday, back today. I'm not for sure if they're going to get him tests or get him an MRI on Monday or maybe a bone scan on Tuesday. Maybe. I'm not quite sure what we'll do. Maybe we'll not do anything. I'm not sure. It was all very sarcastic. But I thought that was kind of interesting that a professional, especially one as noteworthy as Yasiel Puig, is doing this. Now, Yasiel Puig also was arrested for the second time in December for reckless driving, and he also came into camp 26 pounds overweight. So he's
a hot mess right now.
Yeah, this guy is obviously not mature, and I think that's a problem. And that is something that I think you see.
How old is he? Sorry.
What?
How old is he?
Oh man, 23.
Okay, so he's really young. He's like he was a rookie.
Yeah,
but
Yasiel Puig loves him some Yasiel Puig.
Okay.
And I think that maturity in sports, this almost goes back to our topic that we just had when we were talking about the NBA draft. I really think that it is something to be desired, and although no one would disagree that they would rather have immaturity. But I don't know, it just seemed really silly to me, and it almost was the turning point on Yasiel Puig, where I thought last year this guy is going to be absolutely out of this world good. But I almost value a clear, level head more than I've maybe ever done before. And I just think that this guy is just one of those talents that I think we're going to see have his ups and downs all the time now. It just, something last night, I saw a tweet from Buster Only when I thought that we should talk about this on the podcast, when I decided right then at 4 o'clock in the morning or whenever I looked at that tweet, just like, you know what, I don't like Yasiel Puig anymore. This guy is kind of whack. He's out there. He's crazy. And I think that I'm looking forward to watching him play in the season for more of these just ridiculous mistakes, but also, hitting balls out of the strike zone, 45 feet over the fence.
You're reading Buster Only tweets at 4 a.m.?
Well, yeah, dude.
That's what I took out of all you just said. No, that's like some clown moves. He's acting like a clown. That's ridiculous. I don't know, that guy, like, if you go 3 for 5, you can strike out. It's not a big deal. You don't have to act like you just like slipped a disc.
It's just this whole thing that is.
No, I'm saying on his behalf, like, it's really just dumb. Like, but it could be, he was such a sensation last year, and I'm sure he had everyone just like,
he was betting like 400 in like 1 month,
slurping him so hard, and just like, I think maybe he just got too much too soon. Too much too soon is a real thing, for sure.
Over his last 27 games, he batted .205 last year.
And he's just really fat.
I think that sometimes
25 pounds overweight.
26. Well, I'm sure he got that like knocked out in a minute. I mean, the dude, like, have you seen him? I mean, he's like, looks like Bo Jackson out there.
Yeah.
Like, he's ridiculous. But 2-0.
But he's not putting in work.
After the Major League Baseball has figured him out, and yeah, exactly. He's not putting in the work. He knows he's good, and that's keeping him from working hard. And Major League pitchers are going to catch up to him. They're going to eat him up, as we saw the last 27 games batted .205. Now, every good hitter has got a 27-game stretch where they don't bat well. But this could be this is almost the tip of the iceberg. I just wanted to kind of bring this out and get this into the open. That, once players, if you stop working as a professional and you just rely solely on talent, some of these guys are going to figure you out. And as we saw at the end of the season, he got a little bit more figured out after he started that insane start.
Anything on a major league level in sports, it's a job. You got to like work your ass off. Nobody can get by anywhere in any league on talent alone. And so if he's not putting in the work, he's going to be done.
He'll be a fun specimen to watch to see where just talent gets you, because we can all tell by right now that he's not taking it as seriously as he should be.
He needs to make a decision right now about whether he wants to be like a story or if he wants to be an actual legit good player.
He's got the potential to be one of the best.
Yeah.
You watch him play, it's so fun. How are we doing on time, by the way?
We got like maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes left? Great. I want to introduce this final story.
Okay.
This is something that we've talked about over the weekend, and I feel like something's going on here. There's something in perpetual motion, and Mark Cuban is onto it. Of course, Mark Cuban is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and is
one of my favorite people in the world.
Extremely well-respected businessman and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy's great.
Just a good dude.
But he's on something, and he had some comments the other day on the NFL and their success. He said this much: I think the NFL is 10 years away from an implosion. I'm just telling you, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and they're getting hoggy. Just watch. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. When you try to take it too far, people turn the other way. He goes on to say, they're trying to take over the NFL is what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. They're trying to take over every night of TV. Initially, it'll be, They're the biggest ratings. They're the biggest rating thing that there ever was. Okay, Thursday, that's great. Thursday, that's great, regardless of whether it impacts the NBA. During that period when we cross over, then if it gets to Saturday, now you're impacting colleges. Now it's on 4 days a week, and it's all football, and at some point people will get sick of it. We talked at the bars just last night as we were watching the tournament. We both were kind of silently saying this. It's one of those things that will happen when you're kind of throwing something out there, but you really don't know how the other person is going to respond to it. But we were both kind of hinting that we're having NFL fatigue. We're kind of getting tired of it. I've got these feelings that I haven't really said out loud yet, but I'm kind of like, it's not that I dislike the NFL because you know that I love it, but I'm kind of getting this feeling like the NFL's getting so big that it's kind of bothering me. It's not annoying, but having to watch NFL live during the tournament, or I can't watch NBA because there's all this stuff on the NFL is taking over SportsCenter in the offseason when it's not even where the draft is. Mm-hmm. And now the fact that they're expanding, that they're going to be doing 2 networks are going to be covering half the Thursday night games, and then they're going to be doing a Saturday doubleheader. Just seems like the NFL is really feeling its oats, and it's expanding, and I think Mark Cuban might be onto something that people could eventually become tired of the NFL.
I agree. I've felt like that for a couple of years. I'm like, it's ridiculous to even say this, but I feel like I'm like that hipster, like snobby guy who's
you totally are. I was about ready to make fun of you about that. Yeah, you're always on top of all the trends, so the fact that you're feeling this makes me think that the storm is coming.
Well, I feel like the guy who's like talking about, man, like a band he really liked that got really popular. He's like, they sold out, man. That band sold out. Like, yeah, you're totally like, you don't want to like the thing that everybody like feels is like now like a necessary like part of their lives, or that it's so big and everyone likes it, so you don't feel special for liking it anymore. That may be dumb, and that's my own thing, and that's my problem.
Yeah, that's you.
But there is something to be said about the fact that, like, I think we talked about this a little bit last week, but like, more is not more always. And if you're gonna be, I don't want the NFL on every day of the week. Like, I like it on Sundays. That's a nice thing. Like, let's like that's what got you to this point where you could put it on TV every day. So why not just stick with what works? I mean, I don't know if they'll implode after 10 years, but I mean,
yeah, it might have been a little exaggeration.
Yeah, and Mark Cuban tends to get a little hyperbolic, but like, I think, like it's just getting to that point where it seems like the NFL is trying to make it such a necessary part of the fabric of our lives that it's like revolting me a little bit. Or I'm trying to get it away. I'm like, you know what? I don't need you to like be a part of every day of my life. Like I can make that decision.
I agree. It's taking over, and I think that's the initial reaction all the time people will have is like when they really like something, like the more of it. And I think that the more accessible and the more dates that it's on is the faster it loses impact.
It's just like heroin.
It's like when you follow somebody who makes great tweets, but their tweet frequency is way too high. You get tired of those people. There's got to be a little bit of restraint. There's got to be a little bit of that that feeling of wanting more.
Yeah.
And giving people exactly what they want is what's going to take you down. There's this. You hear it a lot in musicians. They talk about this, like there'll be a really good guitar player, and somebody will be talking about how they did a really good solo or something on stage, but you know that they've got more in it. They've got more in them than what they revealed, and that's almost more exciting than seeing where the peak is. Mm-hmm. And I think for the NFL, that those principles are exactly intact. The fact that they're going to be on Thursday, and they're going to have one weekend where they're on Saturday and Sunday and Monday is over the top. And as much as we love it and we're going to consume it now, it's not going to end it. They're not going to implode, but the numbers really have nowhere to go but down now with all the concussion things and everything that's going about with the NFL. Well, I think this is going to facilitate those number decreases. Right now we're at the peak. And I think we're only going to go down from here.
Yeah, there's going to be a backlash to everything. Let me ask you this. Do you think that they see the writing on the wall and they're just going for the money grab?
If they do see the writing on the wall, it's because they think they're going to get in trouble with these concussions.
Yeah.
That's the only way. Because
do you think that could be part of it? I mean, that's total speculation, but I mean,
it doesn't, because
maybe the owners are like, you know what,
that's a really good question.
Maybe the owners are like, you know what, this isn't going to get better. We better cash out while we got all our chips. Like, maybe they're like, let's just get as much as we can. Let's get as fat as we can now, and just like when the winter comes, we'll get through it.
I guess if that's the case, then I guess this is the smart decision to make. But I think that they think that they're going to be the hot stuff for years and years and years. That's what I think that they think.
I think Roger Goodell is a piece of human garbage. Don't care
that's
for him.
Harsh, man.
Okay, I'm going a little Mark Cuban.
Yeah,
but
a little
like
over the top.
I think he's a pretty scummy dude, but like he's all about money. And
he's not, you know.
I think a lot of people.
I don't know. You kind of got this greater good thing going on. You like people to just do the right thing for.
I do. Well, I don't think that's that unusual. But like,
I'm just saying, we're trying.
I just think his decision. I wouldn't surprise me if his decision was totally based on like earnings projections, and he sees like this thing coming down the pipe, and he's like, well, we need to make as much now because things are going to get worse in the future.
Or they're not thinking as long term, and they know that they can capitalize. This is gonna work. This expansion to Thursday night and this Saturday night, making the NFL as accessible as possible, is going to work 100% for 2015.
Yeah.
And 14.
Yeah.
These next 2 years, everyone is going to be all about it. But the fact that you, Mr. Hipster, and me are kind of seeing it, I can see it going down.
Yeah. I just like to make wild speculations and then call into question people's character. Well, that's kind of what I'm about.
And maybe it's just because the fantasy. I think maybe fantasy football has got me kind of down as well. Like the fact that I'm such a bad owner, like I can't ever win. Maybe that's what's making me feel this way. But and trying to expand, and also like the NFL trying to expand to Europe. I mean, they're really going for it.
It's just too much. And you know what? And fantasy football is part of it too. We don't all need to have like 8 fantasy football teams. Let's just chill.
Yeah, I was almost debating. I was talking to one of my friends whether or not I'm even going to play this year.
You'll play.
Well, I know. I'll play. I'll be the commissioner like I always am.
Yeah.
But I'm just, I really want to play fantasy baseball. I can't get enough interest.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, baseball's great, and you not liking baseball is bumming me out. So you're gonna have to figure something out, man. You're gonna have to get it done. I think. You and baseball.
I'm gonna let you talk about it passionately, and I'll just sit and make snarky comments. I think that'll be a good dynamic.
Well, maybe it will be because we're gonna have plenty of it.
Yeah,
especially next week. Oh, Ozzie Smith, he got the 100,000 signatures. I don't know what they'll probably give it to the White House or something. So we'll monitor that. That happened on Friday. They got the 100,000.
We will monitor that closely.
We will. Hey, man, a day off. I don't care if the day off was for tiddlywinks. Like whatever gets me a federal holiday, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
So bring it on.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm sure it's going to fail miserably, but nonetheless, that's something. What else this week? Oh, I had one thing and I completely forgot.
That's okay. We're out of time.
Oh. Well, I suppose that's convenient. Yeah, going back to what we said earlier in the show, I'd love it. If you guys have emails, I think we should get that going. A little interaction with the crowd.
I would love that.
I would
love to do a mailbag or something.
Emails, love to hear the comments. Any topics? Love, if you guys want to help out on the show, maybe there'll be a good topic that we overlooked.
As long as you don't JJ Redick us on the email.
That wouldn't be very nice. Yeah, but we'd love to hear for you. Getting a little social interaction with the fans of the Cooper and Rupert podcast.
There's so many.
Stay tuned for the Cooper and Rupert app, and we'll be back with more next week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you very much. We'll see you guys in 1 week from today. Opening day.
Yeah. Bye.